Hello, everybody, and welcome to DM Writer's Room, the show where we forget to start the music before stream and we have to ask Spencer to do it really quick while we're getting started.
Every
Today, we
time.
are going to be tackling one of our sort of larger thoughts, not necessarily a big project. If you are holding your breath thinking that we are about to spiral off into some new campaign setting, alas, we are taking on a much more difficult logistical beast. Random Encounters. This show is where we demystify the DMing process by trying to take a look at encounters and mechanics and all kinds of things that we think need some fixing, either in D&D or Monster of the Week or other systems, sometimes systems of our own devising lately. A new something we've taken a little bit of a stab at working in like Powered by the Apocalypse. But today we are taking a crack at the much maligned Random Encounter, a tool, in theory, for dungeon masters everywhere, although I've never met a dungeon master who is prone to using them. And so we are going to try to, bless you,
Sorry.
we're going to try to
Sorry.
sort of take a little look at how we can turn those into something a little bit more usable, a little bit more practical. I feel pretty good about it. Sorry, someone's going to take some adjustment. And I guess chat gets to know this as well. I've had to turn up the music we listen to so that you guys can hear it, which makes it unbearably and horrifically loud on my end. So in my ears right now, it is incredibly loud. So that is going to take a little getting used to. And the music has this, the track we always use, Session 0, has this like swell at the beginning. And in my head, I was like, it won't be that bad. Blah, blah, and it was so bad. So first things first, I have a major question, which is, Spencer, I know, believes this. I think I'm inclined to agree. Random encounters are only really for panicked DMs with nothing prepped who need to pad 20 minutes by throwing in 2 tree ants at somebody. They're usually not very well sorted by level or CR. They're often really swingy. You know, they've got their problems. So what do we want out of a random encounter table? I have done something before that I'm going to cue right off the bat, and maybe I recommend it to our viewers. I have made small random encounter tables for an adventure. I've done that. Like, I've written out 10 options for encounters built for the party's level. So I think that's kind of the obvious answer, but that's more something you would do individually, right? You would say, oh, I'm going to run Curse of Strahd. This encounter list is ridiculous and it's going to get the party killed. Let me make 10 fights. And I think that so far has been relatively successful. I've done that, a couple of times for situations where you're trying to avoid the encounter. So how do we visualize a system that is a little bit more usable than that? Something that you could stick in the back of the prospect setting guide, and think that players would like really get something out of.
I think that the first thing you have to do is for any encounter, sorry, my dog's walking by and his claws are clicking on the ground.
Can't hear it over the music even a little over here, so that's good news.
Good, that's great. I think the first thing you'd have to do is lay out a list of these monsters at level. Most likely it would be most useful in Curse of Strahd at the end of the book, in Prospect at the end of the book for specific campaigns. And to have also add in blank or this or that, like adventure hooks, things that tie into backstory, stuff like that. Sort of like a Mad Libs, where it's like when they encounter one of these types of creatures, include something like this or this. I think would make it way more interesting.
So for an adventure, you're visualizing something that would kind of automatically tie itself to one of the many adventure hooks of the world. And you could just offer a couple of flips where it's like, this is either something to lead them there or a straggler. You can sort of angle it either way so that the players feel like it is something they're kind of in dialogue with. I think that's a very strong choice. We've never really managed to... We've planned out some larger adventures. It might be worth trying to think about something, that is a little meaty, something that's supposed to take you through, 5 or 6 levels. Michael, what's your thought?
So, it may be stupid, but my mind goes to it immediately. Categorize it like Pokemon does with tall grass. You're in this zone. You can only experience these types of monsters. You're in this zone. You only have these monsters. You're at this level, you're in this area, you're gonna have these monsters.
And that's like a regional Curse of Strahd style
Yeah, basically.
layout.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real things that you seem to be drawn to in your description are like variety and unique content. So we shouldn't be able to sort of run into anything anywhere. It should be pretty locked locally. I think that's a fair thought.
Yeah. And then one other fun thing for people that are like farming the random encounters, have a legendary out there.
Yeah, it's not safe to be out here, guys. It actually, I do think it's funny to have like per 5 or 10 randos, one like if this happens, it's bad. Ethan, you actually do this a lot in our games. It came up in our most recent game. I think it was less of a random encounter, but it was something hinted at that then appeared. But
No,
yeah, having something big is fun.
So here's what I'll say. My policy on our new game is that I am not giving the players any peeks behind the curtain, because I think that they kind of ruin the game. We are on DM Writer's Room. Would you like to know what was going on with encountering the Dragon of the Tomb Desert? Like, do you guys want me to break down a little bit the mechanic of that so that we can talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, we might as well.
Yeah.
It happened now, so it's okay.
Yeah, so definitely it was a random encounter. There were a couple of threats in the desert that I thought you would run into. That is one of the only ones that was queued up to you, and it was going to happen if you didn't do anything about it. So it came in 3 stages. First is you got the information from the crowd. If we don't move fast enough, we're going to run into the Dragon of the Tomb Desert. So that was your first sort of flare that maybe it would be worth the party's time to try to find a way to ensure the speed of the caravan. It was reiterated when I asked everybody what was up to on their 3 days, and before those 3 days happened, I described the captain as very frustrated that we were moving slow. The captain was getting nervous and fidgety and was having that moment of like, we could have been there already. And so I was sort of queuing up that there was a problem building, and if you had done something to address it, there was a threat other than the dragon that you would have run into. You sort of would have had another one, and even that one you could have sort of, I had queued up beforehand. I was like, hey, there's stuff that could happen, or if you do really well and you pay, maybe nothing happens and you just get there. So if you had managed to bypass that, a new threat would have started to emerge, and you could have also bypassed that one and would have ended up with pretty much nothing of having happened. So it was not a random encounter, but it wasn't one that you were guaranteed to do. It would depend on the party's actions. And I think you all acted very appropriately, right? Somebody said, the Dragon of the Tomb Desert might be in the Tomb Desert. And you went, all right, and went about your business. Yeah. And then the captain seemed impatient. And you were like, yeah, of course she's impatient. She's a skyship captain who's used to hunting monsters in the great Leviathan Sea. Mm-hmm. Why? Of course she's frustrated. And so you just moved on. And now in hindsight, it looks like I'm good at foreshadowing because I was trying to queue up a threat. And so you guys are like, oh no, we could have done something. So that's like, I guess, a riff on the random encounter that I'm a pretty huge fan of. I've also done it in our other games. For those of you, we have a home game where we're playing through Icewind Dale that's been going on for 1,000,000 years. And I've done similar actions with the dragons and goblins in that adventure, where it's like, when you're traveling, you need to be careful. It'll always be queued up, but you might run into them. So a good piece of advice, I recommend things like that, right? Give your parties a chance to dip on dangerous things with enough awareness that it feels like a choice that they are making. In this case, it is a choice, but I know that some nervous DMs are like, I can only prep so much. I'm a father of 3. I've got things to do. I need them to do the encounter I prepped because I only had 30 minutes to get ready. In which case, go with God. Do what you've got to do.
I think that you touched on an important note there, though. We play very specific D&D. Us as a triumvirate and as a group in the last decade of us playing D&D. We play narrative storytelling D&D. There are people out there that are just hack and slash, get the loot and the gold companies, like parties. And I think that for them, the random encounter table as it stands is useful.
Yeah.
I think that it accomplishes the goal there perfectly. So I think that framing it as we want a narrative storytelling random encounter that's usable for people like us, which are becoming more and more popular as 5e enters the mainstream more and more. I think that that's a good way to frame up how our random encounters will be different.
Sure. So I see a couple of ways this could work. Number one is we would just come up with a table based on your adventure. And in that case, I think that this stream would be, and I think it would be a valuable exercise, let's pick an adventure and come up with some random encounters. Maybe we could do it in the World of Prospect. Maybe we could pick one of these bad boys behind me, right? We could do that, and that might not be a bad idea. Option number two, we are trying to come up with, a semi-reliable system by which to do it at home, which I think could be very valuable. That'll be a big step back from, like, putting monsters together, and instead, for me, would be one random encounter would be an ally of the enemy arrives. They are not a threat yet. And so the GM would read that and try to introduce somebody that makes sense. Or maybe the assumption is that the GM would read the random encounter table ahead of time and answer, like prompts that would then populate the random encounter table with some guidance instead of a newer GM having to come up with 10 things just off the dome and try to balance CR, which can be, pretty tough. Two very different approaches. I think they would both be interesting for completely different reasons. Do we have a preference?
I think the second one. I think that building out a Mr. Fix-It, one-size-fits-all is going to be more useful in general, and then testing it on individual adventures would be the next move.
Great.
So that would be, a later stream.
So we're basically trying to come up with a particularly efficient Mad Lib. Right? Something that can give you, and I don't want it to be too many because, and this is an unfortunate absolute fact, you're going to have to redo this every level. Every time the players level up, you're going to have to go back through. Maybe you just need to, if you're like me and you're an absolute freak of nature who knows how the CR math crunches, then you can keep the same monsters and just lift their CR and adjust the numbers. But most people are going to be picking new monsters every time. And so we should plan for that. We shouldn't plan for the exception. We should plan for the rule. Number one, I think we need to pick what dice we are rolling, and if somebody says D100, I'm hanging up the call. I think it needs to be. I think it needs to be over a D4 and probably under a D20. 20 things is overkill. For those of you who don't know, if you crunch the math of like experience leveling, 20 encounters is 2 levels. It's way too many encounters. It's not literally 2, but it would be exhausting and stupid. Like, you're not going to do 20 random encounters before you need to rewrite the whole table. So I think it's going to be 12, 10, 8, or 6. Do we have any strong feelings about that? Any of those numbers jump out? For no reason at all, 10 and 6 are my favorites. I think that's just because I like the dice better. Like, I don't think anything beyond that is what is motivating me.
Now, hear me out. I'm picturing from our Morkborough adventures.
I can't wait.
D6.
It's going to be a good 20 years before we get that ready for publishing, but good gravy, I can't wait. That might be that's one of my favorite things we've come up with.
Me too. But I'm thinking of the D6 rolls where it was like, I have a very general remembrance of this, where it was like, in a bar in this area, you encounter a man with the secret.
I wonder if I can, let me see if I can pull that up very quickly on my cell phone.
Lickety split.
If I can't, I'm going to give up. But given that I am the one that sort of keeps the drives organized, I think I actually have a pretty good chance of being able to pull it up in pretty short order.
So what? I'm gonna keep talking while you pull it up. My thought is it's a 2-step random encounter roll. The first is our Mad Libs. You encounter
Actually, I already have it up.
Someone with blank. Oh, nice. And then the second one would be the monster that you actually encounter, and it's the DM's job to link those two things together.
Okay.
Where it's like you encounter a thing with a secret, and then the thing with the secret is connected to the secondary table, which is the monster.
So what you're saying is we're mechanizing. You said, they said, I say.
We're making they say, you say, I say, but we're making it for everybody else in the world, so we're not the only ones suffering.
So that people understand. So Morkborough is a riff on the game Morkborg. They are often called hacks. There's others like Pirate Borg or Cyborg. Morkborg is a sort of hyper-lethal fantasy-style game. Morkborough was kind of, looking back on it, kind of our riff on Monster of the Week in the Morkborg setting.
Yes.
Which was really fun to work on. And one of the things is that you want to be able to generate adventures incredibly quickly in Morkborg, because players die so fast that TPKs happen constantly. And so it is a good idea to be able to quickly come up with another adventure. So for instance, we have 3 tables in a row. The first is where, the second is who, and the third is spark. Something to sort of give it some punch. So for example, I'll tell you what, Spencer, roll a d12, Michael, roll a d20, and I will roll a d20 as well.
I rolled a 2.
15.
So, going off of that, in a club downtown, a trucker, a nomad, a wanderer of the open road, has found the unconsecrated, which must be blessed.
The idea of a trucker rolling up with, like, a vampire's coffin, the vampire's locked inside, is actually incredibly fun. I'm not gonna lie.
So that's the kind of example that we're talking about, right? So we would first deal with location, then we would deal with, in this case, who is delivering the quest. So probably that's not going to be one of our mechanics. And then third, what's the spark? What's the hook? What's something exciting about it that pulls the characters in? I think that that's very effective, and we had a lot of fun making it. So I don't think it's a bad idea to base it on that system. And for those of you who want to sort of engage with it a little bit, if you look at, something like Morkborg, you will certainly see this. And they actually have a random encounter generator online that's not half bad. Although, anything that automated, I start to be like, but I want to do it. I don't know. That's different for different GMs. So, as far as number of options go, are we attached to this idea of rolling twice on 2 different tables?
I'm not necessarily attached. I just think that it would make it easier in general.
Yeah. So I don't think we need place. I don't think place is necessary, right? Because the answer to that is wherever the players are. Michael, I'm so sorry. What were you going to say?
No, I was just saying, I think rolling 2 or even 3 times could be cool.
Yeah.
The third one would probably be like a D4. It's like difficulty, like easy,
that's interesting,
medium, hard, extremely hard.
Yeah, so my instinct off the top of my head usually is whatever the random encounter die is, as it gets higher, the encounter gets easier, as it gets lower, the encounter gets harder. But it might be fun to separate the difficulty off to the side. My only concern with that is it makes it a little hard to populate the table, right? Now you need to prepare 4 groups of monsters for each item instead of 1. And so assuming that this is somebody that is going to fill out, I think that it might overcomplicate things a little, unless that 1 to 4 is like, is the environment dangerous? Now, Vajona has just said vampire trafficking at Buc-ee's. And we're canceling the rest of what we were going to do this stream, and we're writing a one-shot adventure about a vampire at a Buc-ee's. No, I'm kidding. That is hilarious.
I love Buc-ee's.
I would love to do.
Buc-ee's is actually terrifying from a standpoint of entering for the first time. It is so labyrinthine, the parking lot going in. There's a lot going on there, so it works.
So I love that, but I do think we must, unfortunately, vampire trafficking at Buc-ee's is a perfect idea, but we must stay our random encounter course, forging ahead beyond. So we like the idea of rolling twice. What do we think? D10, D6, D8?
D10, I think.
So,
also, you said where as like a throwaway wherever they are. I could see utilizing where as like at a grotto. If you are you find a river crossing, a bridge, whatever it is, so that way there is a breakup of the terrain wherever they're at.
Okay.
That could be an option.
Sure. So D10 is the actual encounter, is what the sort of adventure hook, the reason the party would be interested. I think it's going to be fun to come up with prompts for that. Moving on to the next one then. The next one should be location, because it sounds like that's something we want to do. I don't want to be as specific as like a grotto. A bridge is more general. I could do a bridge. So I think maybe...
Abandoned cabin.
Ooh.
Yeah, something like that. So I would say yes, but I'm going to just nudge you to an abandoned place. Let's put a little bit... We need one more step at distance so that the GM can kind of make some decisions.
Adjective.
Yeah, there you go.
A radioactive pond.
So
sure.
So I would like for them to be able to pick up all of these dice and roll them all at once. So what other than a D10 should represent location? I'm tempted to say D8 to just do D10, D8, D6, and sort of move down the list, because I think it's unlikely that there's going to be more than 6 open quest lines that the GM is trying to tie things into. So I think that that might be a pretty effective way for us to cover a nice wide area and have it still be something that can be rolled all at once. I don't like tables where it's like roll a d10, roll a d10, roll a d12, because it's like, okay, I have to stop, roll.
Everybody hold up for a second. This is going to take me a minute.
And that might sound a little silly, but I think it's fair. People are more likely to use something when they can just scoop it all up and toss it down onto the table. It's why I tend to recommend, players that are playing, paladins and stuff on the field. I'm like, hey, if you've got a greatsword, do me a favor, roll a d20 and 2d6 at the same time, if you don't mind. It'll just sort of, yeah, exactly, expedites and cues us up for action. So d8 location, and then d6 hook. Great. So, number 1, we're going to look at D10 encounter first. I think that's kind of the clear choice. Starting with 10 and moseying our way down. So number 1 is that 10, right? So what is the best case scenario? What is the random encounter you are happy to get? You get it and it's strictly good.
It would be like unexpected aid, right? This is somebody useful.
Interesting. So unexpected aid. We also have a 9 there. I would almost be tempted. A part of me that wants to challenge the GM a little bit would say 10 should be supernatural aid, and 9 should be surprising aid. Like, somebody is there to help you, versus a D10, which is something from beyond has come to help you, right? Something a little more profound. Does supernatural aid strike us as helpful, or is there another sort of version of that we think is a little bit more helpful? If we were playing in the Forgotten Realms, 10 would be divine aid. But we're assuming that our players, they might be in Ravenloft, they might be in Forgotten Realms, they might be in Greyhawk, they might be in Prospect, if they've taken 300 pages of notes on our stream. Bless them if they did. Whatever those I'm trying to think of what's MCDMs. Are they in Capital? The greatest city of this or any age. So I think divine is a little too targeted. So that's what was leading me towards supernatural aid.
I think supernatural aid is great. I think that it's got enough wiggle room that you can really fit it anywhere, and that's nice. I would love getting that on a random roll as a DM.
So I see a couple of people have just joined. I'm just going to do a really quick update here. We are working on random encounter tables that we think would be helpful for a GM who could basically roll in 3 categories: encounter, location, and hook, and basically populate the result themselves. So before, while you were sort of prepping campaign-wise, you would write out what these 10 encounters would be for this level and whatever quest is going on, and sort of move through. So 10 is supernatural aid, right? This is the best possible scenario. 9, I guess, would be mundane aid as a result, right? There is something there that is helpful, but is not magical. What does a 1 get you?
That would be where, like, a legendary...
Supernatural unhealth.
Yeah, supernatural threat.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's just too many supernatural threats in D&D. Unfortunately, supernatural aid is the 10. Supernatural threat is like the 4. I mean, it's like, that's a little bad, but it could be a lot worse. Number 1, I think I like the idea, like, legendary threat. Something that is something ancient attacks, right? Something famed, maybe fabled. Something in that kind of category.
And what's really nice is when the DM is prepping this, they get to pick that in the same vein as for your Prospect game, having the dragon of the Tomb Desert. They get to write that in and then foreshadow it over the next level or 2 of adventuring, where it's like, I've heard that there's something haunting these woods with long arms and jagged teeth. And then eventually, if they roll poorly in their random encounters, they will encounter it. I think that's fun for that DM prep world building.
Sure. So 1 is a fabled threat. Is 2 just something very dangerous? Is 2 something that will slow them down? I'm trying to think of what is the worst thing that could happen. I tend to say, you need to do a second random encounter. It tends to be one of the very bad options. Did we have another thought? Did we want 2 to just be a very difficult encounter, like something deadly?
What do you think of like a natural disaster?
That could be fun.
Something like that.
Something that like heavily
that.
delays and might do damage. Something environmental that they would need to roll saves and checks to try to avoid.
My thought for 2 would be it would be 2 enemy types. So instead of just like your random is goblins or your random is dire wolves, it would be encountering dire wolves and goblins in the same encounter. And then 3 natural disaster I think is great.
So
because
2,
that's an impediment, something you can work past.
So 2 is like an organized threat.
Yeah.
2, you don't run into a couple of bandits on the road. You don't run into a couple of goblins. You don't run into a werewolf from that village you were in 3 weeks ago that wants revenge. You run into people that are here to ambush and kill you. I think 9 is ambush.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's perfect. And the next one would be natural disaster. In my mind, the spoke of a wheel breaking on the road is upsetting, but with magic in D&D is essentially fixable most of the time. You can work past it, burn a couple slots. But encountering a group of brigands and their dire wolves is something that's going to be pretty rough.
So you go out, exactly, the wagon wheel breaks off and you go to look and you see that in the road a chain has been placed or something made to tangle your wheel, and you look up like, everybody get down! And immediately an encounter kicks off.
That's 2.
So that's our 1, our 2, and our 3, which only leaves us with this sort of middle bracket. Do we have an idea for what 8 is? So that we can sort of fill both sides the same. So for 1, the worst random encounter, we have a fabled threat you have to avoid. For number 2, we have an ambush you have to survive. And for number 3, we have a disaster that is going to slow you down and impede your progress. For a 10, we have supernatural aid. Someone has heard you. We have number 6, mundane aid. An ally can be found, something like that. What is 8? What is something that is, positive, but not necessarily like huge?
Just someone needing assistance. You might get a little something out of it. A little gold.
Yeah, I could see that. Somebody...
It delays you a little bit, but you get a little something.
It's somebody who needs something but has something to offer. I think that's great. Guide me to this place and I'll pay you. Or help me deal with this threat and I will tell you a secret that I know. Something like that.
So 8 is an offer, right? Something you can refuse. You can just say no. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that leaves us with what, if we are being honest, is the least interesting remaining. We have 7, 6, 5, and 4. Unfortunately, I do think the answer is probably like 4 is a hard fight. 5 is a medium fight. You know what I mean? 6 is an easy fight. Is sort of where I'm leaning.
Mm-hmm. I think that makes sense. I think if we have those tiers of combat baked into the secondary roles, I think it'll work great.
Okay, yeah, certainly. The hook could sort of tie into that a little bit. My main thought with the easy, medium, and hard is because we're expecting the GM to come up with this. I'm going to operate under the wild assumption that Wizards of the Coast has made a good random encounter table in their new book, which I cannot verify yet. A new, not random encounter table. Has come up with a good CR encounter builder in their new book because the new one has changed it to be easy, medium, or hard encounters. So I think we're gonna trust maybe that those numbers are helpful. I'm tentative, but let's hope for the best there. So that leaves us only with number 7. What is better than an easy encounter but worse than an offer on the road? I'm tempted to say they're a merchant's caravan coming the opposite way, but they might be rolling this in the 9 hells. You know what I mean? They might be rolling this in a dungeon.
I could see something like that. It could be somebody willing to trade. So instead of an offer, it's just somebody willing to trade, which you could find essentially anywhere if you are creative enough. You know, you're in the hells, a devil appears and says, "Hey, I'll make a deal with you. I'll get you out of here right now. Just sell me one of your souls."
I guess what's the difference between an offer and a trade?
I guess it's a price to pay instead of aid to be offered. That's how I see it. Like, if somebody says, "If you bring me to here, I will give you blank," is different than "pay me money or a debt and I will give you this." It feels slightly different. I don't know if that's mechanically anything usable, but that's my takeaway.
So what I will, just a small word difference that I think helps clarify our point: an offer and a bargain.
Yeah.
Right. I think bargain has a little bit more of that, like, ooh, a what?
Yeah.
I don't know about all that.
Mm-hmm.
So supernatural. So here is our D10 encounter, and it would be the job of the GM to look at the adventure hooks, look at the threats in the area, and kind of populate these 10 items. And every time the party levels up, go back through and see if any of them need to change. Every time the party, kills a deadly enemy, go back through, see if any of them need to change. Is 10 supernatural aid, 9 mundane aid, 8 an offer, 7 a bargain, 6 an easy encounter, 5 a medium encounter, 4 a hard encounter, 3 a disaster, 2 an ambush, 1 a fabled threat. Right?
Okay.
A 1 means you're going over the bridge, over the top of the river, and La Llorona starts crying, and you're like, "Yeah, we gotta go." You start to, jaunt on your horses and begin to run at full speed before you need to answer some ethereal question that you do not want to know the result of. So up next is D8 for location.
All right, it needs to be general enough that it can work basically anywhere. We've got things like a crossroads, a bridge. Those ones are kind of baked in anywhere you go. You can find that.
So let's just start with the first one we came up with. Somewhere, something abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
An abandoned place. Space. Is that a good or a bad thing?
Somewhere abandoned feels neutral to me. Okay. Yeah, it's very neutral.
I'm willing to go towards neutral. I think it's in the low end of neutral.
Yeah.
So
it's a little worse than just passive.
So our number 4 will be abandoned. Something that has been forgotten by time. Huge.
Yeah.
Something abandoned, I think, is great. What other things? So my first thought is, what's the equivalent of finding a little shrine in the woods? Finding an offering bowl with some incense. Yeah, an altar. Or is altar generic enough? Do we like that?
I think
altar or obelisk.
Obelisk is pretty specific, but I think that it does work as
an altar.
An altar.
James has put forth burial grounds.
Yeah,
which I think is different.
Yeah,
different enough from altar and abandoned. I think burial grounds, however, is like a 2. I think
pretty. Yeah.
I think that is unfortunate.
What I like about that is, again, it gives you some leeway. It's not just a cemetery. It could be a tar pit full of bones. Like, that's still a burial ground. I think that works really well.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. What else do we have? Do we have more positive options?
More positive options. I would say a gathering place.
Ooh, okay.
It's a location where many people have assembled.
A central hub.
Yeah.
Gathering place I like. You stumble across a town.
Yeah.
Or even just a camp. Oh, I had a thought and it just flew out of my head.
I was trying to think of something that's positive and supernatural. And I keep on thinking a portal, but portal doesn't work. But
portal would be what?
For number
it would throw you so far off the rails if you rolled that. It'd be funny.
I know.
I think I can fill 6 and 3 in one move, which is 6 is the high ground, and 3 is the low ground.
Low ground. Yep, that'll do it.
Yeah.
And all that really means is you have the advantage if you roll a 6, and you do not if you roll a 3.
Mm-hmm.
You have disadvantage.
Now that leaves us with our polars, our 8 and our 1. What's the best possible? What is the best of all worlds?
I think that I'll go with the worst. which would be
If it was
enemy
for-
territory.
There we go.
See, I was thinking one is it's your area, but you're asleep. Everyone's asleep.
That would be hard to roleplay.
I think
because
ambush-
the roles happen active.
Yeah.
I think ambush is going to unfortunately fill that role for us. So number 1 is enemy territory. Is number 8 friendly territory?
I think that works. I mean, it's a step above just being in a place with a lot of people. It's a place with potential aid, specifically, because it's friendly territory. I think that's the difference for me between the top and the second from the top.
Okay. Oh, I messed up my order here. My bad. And now a d6 of hooks. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I think number 1 has to be like a lieutenant of the bad, like, right? A servant of one you are opposed to. I don't know what that is. But number 1 means, like, it's not just random soldiers. It is not a group of shadows in servant of some dark lord. This is somebody who's here looking for you. And they matter.
I think that's good. What I was thinking was for a low one, it could be false information, a red herring of some sort. Whatever you get from this combat isn't as useful as you think, or is actively harmful in some way.
Interesting. Is number 1 not like a nefarious villain, but instead a random act of violence? Is number 1 like this had nothing to do with you? I don't know if I love that. I don't know if I love the end result being it was pointless.
Yeah, it's more just like what I was thinking is if you're going to get some information out of these things, or a connection, some sort of hook, having it instead be false information in some way is more where I'm going, where it's like you deal with these things and the last thing one of these creatures or beings says to you is it's coming from the south. It's just bullshit. It's not telling you anything actually useful. That was my thought for the worst result.
I am hesitant to tell the players something false they might act on that is just going to derail the adventure, right? This is something we're rolling on when they are already going somewhere. Getting false information.
Yeah.
It would need to have
and
to
that's
be false.
So bad.
It would need to be false information about where they're going. It can't be there's hunters to the south. It needs to be like, you'll never beat Galamshal. Like, James has hit us with one of our low options being a moral dilemma.
That's hard. That's the hardest one because I was considering moral dilemmas. I'm a fan of moral dilemmas, but it's because my group is good with moral dilemmas. Randomizing a moral dilemma is rough. It is hard to come up with that on the fly with a random.
Trying to automate the trolley problem has its sort of has its
to
issues.
encounter a trolley.
There's one man tied to the tracks.
I see a lot of people liking that though.
That's pretty funny.
That's our expanded random roll. No, I don't know.
Okay.
I think that make the worst one that it's an enemy with a lot of information, but they're very important. I think that's fine.
Sure. All right. I think that's good. I'm going to write lieutenant because in my head that's who it is. So a 1 just means whoever's here. It means business. So the hook for this adventure isn't somebody heard word, somebody is investigating. The 1 is someone is here for you. And so they know who you are, they know what your party composition is, they are going to target the spellcasters, they are going to avoid the tanks. You know, they did not come here to screw around. That they are serious.
But if you win, you might get some good information.
I love the idea that somebody is going to roll supernatural aid friendly territory lieutenant.
He's a spy. He's stealthing in.
What, does he reveal himself to be a double agent? Like, what is the result of that role?
Reveal himself as a double agent, knows you're going to be in this friendly territory and thinks he can get the drop on you. You know, some shit like that.
Okay. So kicking our way up then, what is 6? What is like the best of all worlds as far as adventure spark goes? Remember, some of our past options here have been like a whisper in the winds of the willows. Like, you know, we don't need to. We've gotten very mechanical very fast. We can even take lieutenant off the list if we think we're being a little bit too detailed, if we're trying to make it a little too crunchy.
Yeah. 6, the best option for an adventure spark. I think it would be finding detailed information about a hook, about a plot you're investigating.
I've come to a impression here that I think we need to. I'm going to scratch Lieutenant off the list, and I'm going to say detailed information is good. We have started naming kinds of encounters, so I think we need to go back to 0 on this D6. I think these are little additions that make the encounter more interesting. These are not fundamental shifts in the way that it works. These are not high concepts that come in and alter the nature of it. So I do think number 6 is, I think a perfect number 6 is a secret. Intel. There is something interesting going on here, and there is something to be gained from paying attention to it. That is separate of supernatural aid. You could roll supernatural aid and a secret, and that means that whatever is here to help you, you can learn something about it. You can learn something about what is going on. So I'm going to write for number 6 a secret, and I guess I'm going to put a little plus sign because it's a secret, but it's not like a bad one. You know what I mean? In which case, like the false herring number 1, the moral dilemma, something about being like cursed, dominated, controlled, the thing you are fighting did not want to fight, might be a little bit too emotionally involved for a party. That would be what I would do for our games, but I think that maybe it's a little too on the nose. Michael, what's your thought?
I think for number 1, it could be like it's new. It still is new information, but bad. Not bad as in like bad.
Oh, negative information.
Yeah, it's a new negative impact.
Like a new threat?
Yeah, it's a new threat.
Oh, the town you came from, or the town down the way is burning.
Yeah, it's that, or sure, it's that, or it's still involved with whatever your big bad is, but it's big bad plus also they kidnapped your husband.
There you go. So number 6 is like a valuable secret. There is something to be learned here if you are attentive. Number 1 is a new threat. Somebody has called for aid and somebody has answered, and now you are going to have to deal with some new and shitty problem. So if I rolled ambush, enemy territory, a new threat, I would have like a vampire spawn show up, and the players are like, oh no. Like, something major has come in that is going to shift the paradigm here. I think that's pretty great. And it also sort of gestures to other things that may have changed in your world, makes it a little bit more real, in the same way that a secret does. A secret means you are learning something that is outside of what you knew, which means the world is still moving. Secrets are being spread. There are ways to gain that information that aren't just, I open his desk, I read the letters, something that is a little bit more natural than that. I like that.
What's nice about the whole vampire spawn thing, you can tie in other ways, would be it's not that the vampire spawn appears here, you're getting an adventure spark. Those brigands that ambush you in this enemy territory all have bite marks on their neck that aren't ripped up. They offered their blood freely. That vampire spawn has been drinking from them, and it's his underlings. So now you know there's a vampire spawn in the area that is actively working against you. I think that's really cool.
Totally. So I think 5, 4, 3, and 2 can be a little bit more atmospheric, a little bit more aesthetic and a little less mechanical than 6 and 1 because it's such a short range. I think having 6 and 5 and 1 and 2 all be positives and negatives is kind of too much.
Yeah.
Because it leaves you, the only neutral options you have are 4 and 3.
I think 5 could be like a secret path. A
shortcut
of some sort.
Yeah. Shortcut's fun.
Yeah, you see the way, this is not a group, if you were attacked or you received aid, this isn't somebody who waited on the road for your approach. This is somebody who knew a way through the woods or through the desert or through the cavern, and you can follow their footsteps and get somewhere faster than you should have been able to.
Yeah.
That's fun. One could be that they're trying to... One's really trying to hide the package. Maybe it's something that was stolen or extra little goodies.
Oh, I kind of like that for goods. 4 or 5. The hook being they are transporting something.
Yeah, that's fun.
An item courier? I'll write courier.
And of course, the item ties into some hook, some plot thread. Easy.
Yeah, well, that's the GM's job.
That's
They
the
got to
whole
figure
thing,
that
yeah.
out. So that only leaves us with 3 and 2. So we have our 3 good ones. We have a secret, a shortcut, and a courier, somebody who you can speak to or steal from. That is just sort of the extra thing, is they are here to deliver a message. Immediately, my thought is if you roll supernatural aid and secret, the supernatural aid delivers a secret. If you roll supernatural aid and courier, they deliver you an item. If you roll supernatural aid and a new threat, they issue you a warning. What about 3 and 2?
Tough ones.
The best worst option is going to be rough, because it's like, what kind of hook could, I don't know, I'm trying to, this is rough.
Yeah, let's
Have
hear
something be like unnatural about it.
a secret, a shortcut, a courier, a new threat. Something that to me would be above a new threat, but still bad, would be something makes one of these things you are dealing with special, something unique. Because it doesn't mean that they have a magic item you can pick up. It means there's like something not good going on. That's not so far as to say like they have been bolstered, right? There is some new enemy to face. It just means like one of these people was unexpectedly strong. Does that feel... James has just said a betrayal.
Oh, yeah.
Is number 2 a
Betrayal's very
betrayal?
fun.
Yeah, it's a betrayal.
Love that.
James,
Friend's foe.
you're worth your weight in gold.
I do think that you're on the right track, though. I could see something like Tainted would be great. If you can't come up with a reason for a monster or an enemy to be tainted in some way, you're a fool. That's crazy that you can't. In any fantasy D&D setting, you can add some taint.
I'm definitely...
Go ahead and don't clip that.
Clip that,
for me,
clip that,
everybody.
clip that, clip that. I'm going to clip
Taint
that.
works perfect.
Taint
Just-
works.
it-
That's
Taint
what
works
we
perfect.
always say on this show. Taint works
We
perfect.
always say taint.
But yeah, I'm thinking the enemy is obviously like hasted, or something that's raging that shouldn't be able to rage, or you've done enough damage to kill it. It's still going.
All right,
Yeah, Undying.
let's move on to building encounters, because I've never seen our viewer numbers go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down as much as when we were talking about mechanics. So instead, I think it's time to move on. How do we want to pick the adventure that we are going to be sort of generating these things for? Do we want to look at like the whole breadth of what the adventures for 5e have been so far? Do we want to pick something iconic?
I mean, the easiest, most obvious one for me is Curse of Strahd.
Yeah.
We've all had a lot of experience in that campaign, so making it for that makes sense.
I do want to say we busted that out in a pretty quick, like 45, so that wasn't too bad. So we do have quite a bit of time. We have almost an hour to sort of continue to work. So we can start with Curse of Strahd. We're going to have to kind of rattle off a couple. Basically what we're doing, again, just for future posterity, we have created a different way of looking at random encounters, where instead it gives you hooks that you can populate yourself, maybe ahead of time, right? If you're the kind of GM who likes to prep, then when your players move on to a new area, a new level, a new threat, you would sort of prescribe that 10, that supernatural aid, that offer, that bargain. You would fill that table with things that make sense. And then the location and the hook are just fun additions that give you, little juicy prompts to help you flesh out your choice. So
Before we jump in, because we do have plenty of time, can we do a little test roll here? I'll set the scene, and we'll roll these die. You and your party have been adventuring together for about 1 month. You've slain numerous enemies. You've taken on a couple lieutenants of a awakened Hydra enemy. You are on your way to confront this awakened Hydra for a final confrontation, and you have stepped out of your territory to do so. You have your 2 NPC allies, Hilder and Filder, with you, and you feel like you're ready for this final confrontation. But you enter the woods. Let's roll.
Are each of us rolling 1?
Ethan's letting her rip. Let's see.
Okay. A hard encounter. You have the low ground. There is a courier among them.
Jesus. All right, yeah, it's not as usable because it's a hard encounter. We're like level 6 here.
Yeah, if we're
so we
dealing
would
with the
just say
Hydra,
we go
we've
over
totally
that,
got this. Level 6, so that means our average XP, our CR, is going to punch a bit above, right? So we're going to have a couple of bad guys. It's a hard encounter, so that's mostly just going to mean there's more of them, right? If we're a party of 3 with 2 NPCs along for the ride, let's not count those NPCs as players. Let's sort of fold them in together as a magic item. And so we'll say it is the equivalent of there being about 4 people. So I will say there is something tough, and then there is 3 or 4, let's say 4 enemies that are assisting it. That'll make it really easy to get up to that hard DC number as far as like the math wants you to get. And so I think that's great. And that pretty much takes care of that first hard encounter element. You have the low ground. Now, Hydras, in D&D at least, are sort of swamp monsters. They hang around usually in kind of dense and unnatural swamps, making their way around those, like, what are those trees that's roots are like all out of the water, are always what I imagine when I imagine a swampland. But it is awakened, and so these are its servants. These are the things that do as it bids. So I think having the low ground against the cult of the Hydra probably means you are wading hip deep in water. Your movement is slowed, it's difficult terrain everywhere, but these things can swim and are not impeded in their movement. So I'm going to say swampy, impeding, slow question mark. And then we kick on to our D6, which is a 4, which is a courier. So you are running into enemies, but they are not here for you. They are trying to transport something. What are they trying to transport? What does an awakened Hydra need to sneak across the countryside? My first instinct, I think, is the most obvious possible. It's an egg. That they are trying to get out of the swamp, knowing that you are coming, right? They have become aware that you are approaching. The only other thing I can think of beyond that would be something that shows that they have allies, something that kind of cues up.
And that would be a casket full of poison vials. The Hydra's poison itself has been milked out and is being sent to a nearby king or fiefdom of some sort, indicating that there's a deeper threat here. Either way, that shit worked like a dream.
So it's 4 normal adversaries, 1 strong adversary in a swamp that impedes and slows you down, and you discover among their number Hydra venom and a large coin purse that is empty, as if they have not yet been paid. All of these things cue up to you that the Hydra isn't just some threat off in the woods. It has allies, and those allies have gold, and the Hydra has a plan, right? This is not an ill-fated venture that this creature is on. I would call that kind of a resounding success. I think that that's a good little proof of concept we have there.
And you know what it's better than? You encounter 6 wolves in the woods.
6 wolves.
Roll initiative.
6 wolves?
Michael, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I want my monsters to be swamp sirens or swamp silkies.
Oh yeah, together. Why not? They're rolling through.
All right.
I think the idea of a swamp silky or swamp siren's cool.
Yeah.
Curse of Strahd, Spencer, roll a D10, a D8, and a D6.
10, D8, and D6.
Foreshadowing. Michael, if you don't have dice out, get dice out.
I have my dice.
I got a 4 on the D10, a 3 on the D8, and a 1 on the D6.
Oh no. Okay. Roll the D10 again. We just rolled that.
Oh yeah. I rolled it again. 7.
Okay. So, with a 7, somewhere in the adventure Curse of Strahd, you receive a bargain. Oh my god, you rolled the other one again too. Roll a D8. What are you doing over there, man?
An 8.
You receive a bargain in friendly territory.
Ooh.
But that bargain is bad news.
A bargain of bad news in friendly territory.
So a bargain, remember, is worse than an offer. This is something that is willing to make a trade with you. It is in your friendly territory. It is something that you are close to, and but something about what it is bargaining you for is not a good sign. There is something unfortunate about what it is offering you.
This would be in like, where is that set? Velaki.
Yeah.
Right? You're in Velaki. The cult would probably approach you, tell you about this event that's upcoming, and try to get you to buy into it. They would say, like, we will aid you in this town and in this adventure, but you have to join us for this thing. But it basically just shows their hand that there's this terrible thing that's going to occur because, you know, you're making a deal with the devil in this instance. I can see that. It's a good way to show off one of the plot threads if you haven't already had a chance to have them be introduced.
So assuming the party is already approaching Velaki, but they are still in friendly territory, our bargain is that members of the cult that are going to attack in Velaki arrive and offer the party the chance to have the upper hand in that encounter on the side of the cult. Which I think is a great way to pair bad news with a good result on the encounter, right? So bare minimum, the party has learned that the cult is going to attack. The cult, thinking that these new adventurers don't know anything about the situation, are like, this is a perfect opportunity. We're going to hit these guys up. Maybe we'll get some benefit from getting their assistance. They offer you gold. They offer you magic items. You know, they offer you whatever you want from the town. And all you need to do is help them with their nefarious deeds. Hoping that you'll sign on, the party can choose to either sign on to get the upper hand or cut them down where they stand, and now you know that there is going to be an attack and you probably can't stop it, so you're just going to have to go and try to take it on, but not as a surprise anymore.
Boom.
Come on. Now granted, we are coming at this from the angle of three people who've been running a show about improvising adventures for several months.
So true.
For over a year, but I do think I think the proof is in the pudding.
Nice.
Michael,
Hi.
give us an adventure. Give us give us a product. I don't know. Give us the setting. Give us something.
Prospect.
There we go. Prospect.
That's what we've been waiting for.
Get those rolls out.
All right. We have 2 on the 6 die. We have a 4 on the 4 die, and a 1 on the 8 die.
What 3 dice did you roll?
8, 6, and 4.
It was
10, 8, 6.
10, 8, 6. All right, I'll get rid of the 4 die.
Michael, pay attention.
Roll again.
The 10 was a 1. So we got 2 1s in that.
Okay.
And a 2.
So a
This is
fabled.
gonna be really good.
So a fabled threat in enemy territory
Yeah.
that involves a betrayal.
Okay. What was the name of the vampiric? The Osoar.
Are you talking about the vampiric knoll or the vampiric god?
I was thinking of the Osoar with the Osoar.
Yeah, the Osuar. So for those of you who don't know, in the world of Prospect, gnolls are kind of our first foray into cosmic horror. They are something that was found. Somebody trying to like look out into the outer reaches of the planar system found gnolls and tried to use them as like a weapon of war, and quickly it got out of hand, and they discovered that gnolls left to their own devices would start to make these almost hives, right? They would start to like kill things and bring the bodies in, turning the bones of the things that they kill into more witherlings, which is like what happens when a gnoll is fully decayed and undead. And that eventually emerging from them would be Osuar, these massive, incredibly powerful vampiric gnolls that would just feast on anything they encountered. So our fabled threat is an Osuar. That means there's only a couple of places we can be in the city in Prospect, which I think helps, right? You are either in the Tomb Desert or you are in a secret lab somewhere. right? That is our two things. You're deep in enemy territory, though, so both of those options work. Is there one that you're drawn to right away?
I'm already thinking the floating city.
Edifice.
Edifice.
Oh, lab
If
in there.
Edifice was secretly a government testing facility, essentially, where in its deep roots by the rocket propulsion system, they have like an Osuar and they have other ancient enemies that they're testing on, and they keep it in the sky so it can't infiltrate the rest of the world. Incredible. If you're a guardian,
that feels like
that'd be
betrayal.
enemy territory, right? And the betrayal would probably be that you've been up here for a while, and you've been fed bad information.
And it being down where, so first of all, there is a trapped air elemental, a very powerful one that is at the heart of the city that keeps it flying. And there's also this like propulsion system that lets them guide it. What I also love about that is for sure one of those rockets can redirect to flood the chamber the Osuar is in with fire if something starts to go awry. So you are on the city of Edifice, and an Osuar, one of these like terrible things, is being experimented on, and you have stumbled upon that in some way. You know, you hear basically the alarm for an SCP containment breach, and this thing smashes through a wall, fire cascading around its shoulders behind it as it starts to lumber out. And as much as you might be a guardian who's opposed to this place, Edifice is a city full of normal people, right?
Yeah.
Letting this thing get out, there's no good ending for that, and so perhaps you still feel responsible. How does this involve but this encounter is no normal encounter, it's a betrayal. So I think what instead needs to happen is somebody in the party thinks they were an ally. I don't know, I'm getting, this is a very like fantasy book thing to have happen. I'm getting like the party goes to turn into a quest and the door latches behind them and a big metal bulkhead door opens and a huge claw emerges and this like monster starts to pull itself up and out. It's the Viscount Brimsby has betrayed you, you know, something like that. Somebody that doesn't want to pay their tab.
Michael, what was yours? Did you have one?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Mine was, it was a betrayal by the Guardians who sent you on this mission to begin with. You've unlocked this thing to give them power over the thrust controls. The Osuar breaks out, and you see the engines start tilting up towards you. They're going to flood the entire bottom of this place, and you have to escape and fight this Osuar at the same time. But you've been betrayed. You're going to be wiped out by the Guardians in this moment of retribution. You just happen to be in the crossfire.
Interesting.
Right?
I like it. It is skewing out of random encounter design and into adventure design, right?
Yeah.
This is not, so it being like your companion that doesn't want to pay the bill keeps it as a random encounter. It being like the Guardians have betrayed you is more the ending of a quest. I think it's a sick ending. But, you know, I could sort of go either way. Although I guess, you know, if you're a GM who likes randomness, rolling on this table and being like, oops, I guess you're getting betrayed at the end of this quest is hilarious. Having it be like, as you fall backwards, having turned the key in the latch, you take a breath. The GM rolls for the random encounter for the walk back, gets this and goes, well, I guess they're not allies anymore, and crosses the Guardians off the list.
If I knew that betrayal was one of the options, I would always have a double agent in whatever situation they're in. So that way when the betrayal happens, I go, and then the engines turn towards you. You've been betrayed by Brimsby.
The Viscount Brimsby! Yeah, we've randomly, for the record, part of the joy, it's interesting to see the way that the world of Prospect changes the more that we interact with it. Like, you run one game in Prospect, and all of a sudden you're like, we've made a lot true.
There's a lot going on.
We've made a lot true about this world. Cool. Yeah, for sure. No, that's fine. So there's only a couple of paladins in the city? Great. I knew that.
Solid.
Let me write that down. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I mean, we are absolutely cooking with gas. We've gone through a couple of different settings. I think we definitely have got proof of concept here. I'll say, with 40 minutes left on the clock, do we want to do anything else? Like, do we want to pivot? Do we want to jump to anything else? I don't think we can spend 40 minutes coming up with random encounters.
And we just keep doing it. No, I mean, I think that might be it. I feel happy with that. It's a solid product. We can use it today. Anybody could use it today. It would take us like 15 minutes to draft up this table and make it look pretty. I mean, we might have just done the damn thing early this time.
For sure, keep an eye on our TikTok, because that
This is coming up.
that thing's getting formatted and posted any day now.
Yeah.
We are sort of clocking into that right away. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna say let's do a bit or two, right? Let's not end that early. We're like an hour and 9 minutes into stream, so we've run shorter streams than this. But I do think we should let's at least kick it into that 9 o'clock time slot. You know, this is, I guess, the downside of coming up with these things live. Sometimes you just kind of figure out what you're going for and nail it, and you don't really need the extra hang time.
All right, we've got bit number 1, pop culture character creator.
Ooh, we haven't done this one in a while.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. I think.
So for those of you who do not remember pop culture character creator, Spencer has a list, I don't know where he got it, with a bunch of famous characters on it. He rolls on the list, and then we try to sort of locate them in D&D as if they are a player character. This has involved such bangers as, is Walter White a rogue or an artificer, and a few other debates that have been pretty fun. I'm going to try to stick the 5.5 angle because that's what's been rattling around my noodle, but we can totally go 2014 PHP for these things as well.
More options in 2014. That's what I'm going to stick with.
Yeah.
All right. One of you roll D100.
Michael, you got it?
Sure. All right.
We have. Oh.
Thank goodness for the bits. We need them.
91.
Dang. Okay.
Please tell
Bilbo
me
Baggins.
I was like, please tell me it's Sonic the Hedgehog.
You'll come up one of these days. Yeah, Bilbo. You know, our best friend Bilbo.
Not Frodo Baggins, but Bilbo.
Not Frodo.
Oh,
Bilbo.
it's Bilbo. That's pretty good.
Bilbo. All right.
We'll see.
Probably I'd say like a blood hunter.
Paladin to Tyr, Lord of Light, you know, Oath of Vengeance.
Okay, here's
Blood
I think
Light.
I need to ask a leading question here. Do we think that this is Bilbo Baggins during The Hobbit or during Lord of the Rings?
I'm not
before
answering
he
that
goes
question.
on that
I've already got
long?
my answer written down. I'm putting my pen down. The hands are off.
All right.
Hands are off the chess piece. Here's what I'll say. Do iconic Bilbo. That's what I'll say. Don't try to pick the book. Pick Bilbo at his most Bilbo.
I've got mine.
I've got mine.
I don't yet.
Okay, we'll buy you some time.
Get with the
Thank you.
program, Michael. No, yeah, that makes sense. I think there's something interesting about this. Having a character that exists on so many different times and so many different forms is really helpful, right? We have this very early kind of intrepid, you know, that guy's got the chef feet. He's a level 1 player with the chef feet who's like, woohoo, running off into the distance.
He does not know what he's in for.
He does not know what he's in for. And I think that is something that is really, I think could be really fun. Versus Bilbo's sort of late Hobbit, like this kind of like on the battlefield. But unfortunately, it really depends. If we're talking about the movies, then yeah, he fights the fight. If we're talking about the book, he gets knocked unconscious and misses the whole thing.
It's in character.
It's very in character. I forget, I reread The Hobbit recently because I like to try to read like a good dense fantasy book every once in a while. I forget what a whiner he is. Now listen, the situation does suck, but all Bilbo does is complain. All Bilbo does is whine about his great adventure and his cool
sucks
gold.
for everyone. So it's like if he's the only one complaining, it makes him look like a dingleberry.
Yeah.
All right. Here's my pitch.
Oh, Michael, is Michael good?
Go for it.
Great.
Old Bilbo,
Old Bilbo.
College of Lore bard.
Ooh, I'm definitely in. That's great.
He tells the story. He's got this sick magic item that he keeps secret. It's all kind of baked in there. I feel like he does some performance. I don't really. He tells stories. He constantly tells stories about his adventure to everybody else. He writes the book. Yeah, cool. I'm done. That's my pitch.
All All right, I have mine. I am pitching either end of the Hobbit Bilbo or early Lord of the Rings Bilbo. He has 1 level of Rogue and 1 or 2 levels in Warlock of the Undying.
Ah,
Because he
fun.
lives unnaturally long and he can cast invisibility, but not that many times. He seems to only be able to do it like once a day. I have him as a very low level multi-class Rogue and Warlock of the Undying.
Yeah. Michael?
I was thinking Inquisitive Rogue.
So we got the Rogue
There we
time.
go.
Yep.
So we've got straight Rogue, Lore Bard, and Rogue Warlock mix.
I think that the real, if we fine-tuned him, he would be like level 3 Rogue, level 6 Bard. Yeah, I could see that.
I don't know if he's jonesing on enough magic for level 6 Bard.
That's true.
I think like level 2 Bard. Like I said,
Yeah.
we see Bilbo cast invisibility, and I'm pretty damn sure we see him cast guidance a couple times.
True.
He has inspiring
He
leader.
throws a couple of inspiration points around. He has the chef feat, so he has an ASI in the bag, right? So he's got to be at least level 4 if you crunch all the numbers. I think that's pretty fair. I think we've got a good spread. I think each of us, we managed to take 3 very different stabs at Bilbo Baggins, and I'm in on that. That's huge. All right, we've got 3 more minutes to kill. They say, you say, I say, and then we wrap up the call.
They say you say I say.
I'm curious, do we only have those 2 bits? I can't remember if we
Are
have
there any-
a secret
I
third.
feel
Are
like
there
we had a
any-
secret third.
Old dusty bits to blow
I'm
dust
trying to
off in the
think.
corner.
I don't remember. I feel like there was a third. We've been doing the show, and I shit you not, for almost 3 years.
Unbelievable.
So the odds of missing a bit is pretty high.
I know,
But they're the
it-
2 I remember.
It was like 2 apartments ago.
Yeah.
I know because I couldn't do it at my first apartment the last time when I went to graduate school because it was too dirty and noisy, and I was like, I can't do anything here.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll come up after this stream. We will, as a collective, come up with some more bits that we can rely on. I came up with these in a fugue state years ago.
Hear me out. We go back. We do the world's worst watch party. We watch all of DM Writer's Room.
Oh.
10
okay.
years later.
They say you say I say. Everybody roll a d20.
Oh yeah, I honestly forget how even the common bits work.
14.
10.
17.
God damn it.
Get to take it easy once again.
I have to say, my overall dice luck is like very middle of the bell curve. My they say, you say, I say dice luck
In the
is
garbage.
so shitty. It's always me.
Michael, what do you want? You want location or do you want
I
monster?
have to clear my head.
I'll do monster.
All right,
I have to go,
location it
I have
is.
to go Ultra Instinct.
Give
Do
me a
we want to
second.
say the world that we're in? Are we doing Prospect or Forgotten Realms?
I'm going to assume we are almost always in Prospect.
Okay.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's my preference, because then we get to make things true. We have a little bit more freedom. I don't need to try to be like, Mordenkainen. Like, I'm all good.
I have mine.
It'd give me like.
Yours is a much more difficult task.
Give me
than
9.5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
I just hit 9 o'clock.
In the meantime,
Michael
I
just
think
sits
now's
there.
a good time. Well, Michael comes up with a monster. I think now's a good time for the sign off. And the last thing we'll do before we fade out is finish up this hook. If you want to plug all of our random shit.
Oh
and then we'll
yeah,
do it.
of course. Stick around to catch the end of our bid here as I try to come up with sort of an adventure hook live.
I
But
do have mine.
you've been watching DM Writer's Room. Foolhardy Press. You can catch 3 streams. They all start at 7:30. Sometimes we're a couple minutes late, or we have huge technical difficulties like the other day. But in general, we start at 7:30. You can catch those on Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays. On Sundays at 7:30, you can catch Game Masters, Masters of Games, where we either play a game we've already mastered or try to master a new game. We are playing through Baldur's Gate 3 just now. We took a little hiatus from that to play Elden Ring, which was very fun, until the end, which was not fun at all. We might take a stab at something new here in a minute, but currently we are just finally reaching Act 2 and trying to meet the most important people and make our way through. On Mondays, you can catch The Party Makes Things Worse. You've just missed two huge things. The first is the finale of Spencer's Monster of the Week campaign, The Prince of Charming, which was so fun. A crisp 9 episodes, so go give that a watch. You can knock that thing out in like a day or two. And then we are just starting the Song of the Reliquary, which is my campaign. We are going to be playing D&D for something between like 15 or 20 sessions, assuming nothing particularly strange happens. And then, of course, on Tuesdays, you can catch DM Writer's Room, where we demystify the DMing process by taking on mechanics, monster, encounter, and magic item design, and random encounter design at times. You can also check us out on TikTok and YouTube, where Spencer makes a lot of great content. I guess you can check out TikTok until January 20th, and then probably not after that. So check us out on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube right now, like and subscribe. See if hit that bell. Watch the rest of our stuff. We would love to have you around and hear what you have to say about this and some of our other streams. Also, check us out on DriveThruRPG. Our first adventure, The Lich's Dollhouse, is up, and we're always working on new stuff. Frankly, a few too many new stuffs at any one time, and we are excited to kind of get some of that up there in the next coming months. And with that, it is time for us to finish off this bit. Just do it. Tell me what I gotta do.
Michael, hit him with the monster.
Ooze method.
Oof.
Okay.
Mine is the Library of the Ancient Dragon and the Federation of Elders.
Oh. Yeah. The Emerald Spire? I think is what it is?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Okay, the Emerald Spire. If you don't mind, can I quickly remind myself of the deal of that dragon, or do I need to do it off the dome with no...
No, let it rip. We're ending early as hell either way, so find that information really quick.
Thankfully, let me plug Obsidian, the note-taking software, which has saved my bacon a truly infinite number of times. Probably.
And I'm a OneNote man myself. It's how I keep track of all of my stuff.
I do love a OneNote. I do love a OneNote. It just doesn't have as it's easier to collapse and make
that visual appeal
territories in this one, and that can be very good. Wow. Umrath, lore master of the Federation, an intensely evil seeker of magical secrets, who was twisted horribly by the cataclysm. Hell yeah, Umrath.
We did so much in this world over the span of 9 months of world building.
An ooze method that has something to do with the library of Umrath, the Emerald Spire. You and your adventuring party are level 1. You are starting in the Federation of Elders, and you have been brought to the Emerald Spire by your friend that works there. He reveals to you that in an unfortunate turn of events, he accidentally let an ooze method loose in the library and really needs your help to capture it or kill it or whatever, to get it out before he loses his job and potentially his life. And so you need to make your way through the restricted sections, following this trail of ooze in and around the library, trying to avoid the sentinels and librarians that are there to dispatch with any that do not belong, and help your friend avoid truly a terrible fate if he is discovered to have potentially damaged some of Umrath's books with his own lackadaisical attitude. I say level 1 because I think this is a great queue up for an adventure where when you capture the ooze method, you become level 2 and you find a book or something that is too dangerous for you to continue without doing something, and so it launches you sort of into a campaign.
Now an addition, an addendum, if you will. If I were to say have rolled a 5, an 8, and a 1 on our random encounter, what do you encounter on your way to the library?
A medium encounter in friendly territory that involves a new threat. I think that you encounter some horrible sign that the ooze method has already been through here. I think you find some little protectors. There's these little sentinel conjured spirits having this much ancient knowledge in this place has made it so that basically the smallest versions of the low gods, these like little spirits, are all over the place. And you basically find like a little battlefield where they have squabbled with the ooze method. And it is a medium encounter because they have become kind of enraged by having been attacked and slighted. And so they are hostile when you arrive. And because they are those spirits, when you destroy them, they just kind of... and then eventually sort of reconstitute, not anymore sort of made chaotic and strange by what has happened. So you deal with them as your friend is trying to lead you to the library to go help him find this thing that he has released.
Boom.
Nice.
Double bit, 2 bits in 1.
Pretty clean. All right. Thank you so much for watching. We have already signed off, so I don't need to do it twice. Catch us here on Sunday. Catch us here next week on Tuesday. It's always great to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.
Bye.